Hello, preschool peeps. Welcome back to How Preschool Teachers Do It, the shelter-in-place episodes.
Mm-hmm. It's like a series, yeah.
It is. It's a series in which Alison and I decided to forego our usual musical introduction and other things that we usually do on the podcast because this is a special situation, and we thought we would treat it in a special way.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
And that's actually what prompted us to be on YouTube and go to video, which is one of the things that likely will stay in the future. We really like it. And we're pleased to see that people are subscribing on YouTube and watching on YouTube, and we hope that catches on. But if you're listening on your podcast app, have no fear. We're still here to talk about the things that matter to our preschool peeps, and that you can understand just through listening. And today, as I check, look, everyone can see me looking at my notes. Today, we're going to talk about sheltering in place and helping children to understand that. Their whole lives have been upended just like yours and mine. Only I can watch the news or speak with friends and colleagues and understand why.
Yeah. And these little guys that are in our lives, they don't understand why. They don't understand why they can't go to school or even go to the playground in your town. At least in our area, you can't even go to the playgrounds anymore. They don't understand that. So we need
or even why, in some cases, why mommy and daddy are home. Well, they don't understand that.
Yeah, they don't. And we're in a situation that we were not prepared for, and we've never experienced ever before. So we don't have knowledge on how to go about this. We're all just kind of doing our best. But like Cindy said, we're adults, so we can kind of process what's going on a little bit and why we need to stay at home. Yeah, kind of. And I even think adults are really struggling with this because I go through phases of like, oh my gosh, why is this happening? And then other times I'm like, okay, no, I understand. I'm an adult and I think that. So imagine like what these little children are thinking. Like, what are they thinking? Like, they don't know why they can't. Like, I understand the reason why I can't go to school. I understand that I need to stop the spread of this virus. I understand that. 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, preschoolers, I don't even, maybe even all the way all through high school, might not understand why we're doing this.
Well, there are two things I think we need to take into consideration. I mean, even as you're saying, we as adults are certainly struggling with this. Alison and I, offline before we started recording, had a conversation about how at different times we both seem to think that we're going to wake up from this like a dream. I told a whole Zoom meeting yesterday before the meeting started. I'm pretty sure I'm going to wake up, look at my husband and say, I had the craziest dream. There was this virus and we all weren't allowed to go out. And now I was doing consulting on technology. It was so crazy. And then I realized, wait, it's true. And Alison said she's doing the same thing. She has the same thoughts.
And I'm so glad that someone else said that because I thought I was just crazy. I thought, I'm like, no, Alison, you're just crazy. Like, this is real. Like, how come you can't grasp that this is a real thing?
Because we're having trouble processing it. Yes. You and I as adults are having trouble processing the drastic change that suddenly happened.
Right.
And I think we need to realize so are the children. And another thing I wanted to point out was that I read this really great article somewhere on social media. If it's your article, please go to our contact form on howpreschoolteachersdoit.com and let us know. I'll look you up.
Yeah.
I don't remember who wrote it, but it was a great article about how what adults are doing right now is grieving, that we're going through the stages of grieving. Yeah. And so are your children if they can't be in the same room with same age peers. And so are your children if they don't understand why their life has changed. If someone passes away, we help our children through grief, right? Hopefully. Yeah. And I think we have to help them through this grief too.
Right.
In a really developmentally appropriate way. Go ahead, Alison.
Yeah, I saw this, I read that article, but I also saw this graphic, I guess that's what it's called. I don't even know what these things are called, on Facebook that says, it is okay for you as an adult to grieve your wedding being canceled, your baby shower, not being able to see your family. And it had like this list of like, it's okay to grieve those things. You should grieve them. Your life is different now. So if we have to have these little graphics and articles and all that, and we're adults, imagine like the kids should be able to grieve like, I can't go to the playground. I can't go to school. I'm going to miss my school play. I'm going to miss this event. I can't go to baseball practice. I can't do soccer anymore. I mean, they should be able to grieve that too. And their grieving might be different than ours, but they should still be able to grieve that and go through that process.
And they need to know that they can go to their adults who are with them and express their feelings at their developmental level. So if we're going to talk to kids about this at their developmental level, you know, basically what we need to do is be as honest as possible. And I've been advising when I've been asked about how to talk to families about talking to their children, or by families about how to talk to their children. I've basically been saying you need to say to your children that we're staying in because there's a bad germ called COVID-19. Please use the words. It's kind of like when we speak to children about death. I'm always telling people use the word died. It's a particular condition. COVID-19 is a particular germ. So hopefully they won't relate it to their common everyday colds and sniffles if we use the name. And we need to say to them, we're doing this to help people. Because if we stay in and stay safe, then doctors and nurses can help the people who have the germ COVID-19.
Right.
You know, and they need to know we're doing this to help each other and to stay safe and to help doctors and nurses and other heroes who are right now on the front lines of this. Yeah. And I think, don't you think, Alison, it would be so great to point out who real heroes are?
Oh, this is a perfect opportunity to do that.
Yes.
I mean, like, it's like Mr. Rogers when he's like, whenever there's a crisis or a tragedy, look for the real heroes. You know, there'll always be helpers and heroes. And that's like, this is a perfect time to teach the kids that and how we can help them. Like right now, the way we could help them is by staying in. You know, at another time, helping them might be something different. But right now, this is what we need to do to help the heroes. The heroes are these essential workers and the doctors and the nurses and the people who are helping other people. We can help them by doing this, you know, and say exactly like Cindy said, call it the bad germ. There is this particular bad germ right now, not your regular germs that we talk about all the time. Right. This particular germ, and we don't want our friends and our family to get sick, but we also don't want those helper heroes to get sick either, you know. So we need to do our part by washing our hands, staying in, not going to school. You can help by seeing your friends online. Like I even told one of the parents, I'm like, tell them that's how you could help. You could help by seeing your friend on the computer instead of seeing them in real person, because there's a couple parents that are struggling with how to explain this to their kids. And then I had a parent who did explain it to them and they totally took it a different way. So like, it's like they really thought like, oh, that means everybody I know is sick. That's how the child took it. Like she took it as like, cause they used to go to the grandparents, I guess, twice a week. And mom said, we can't go there anymore because we don't want them to get sick. So they did a little Zoom session. And the little girl was like, but grandpa's right there. He's fine. Let's go over his house. He's fine now. He's better, because she saw him on the computer and he was fine. And he, you know, and so she's like, now she goes, I tried so hard to explain it. And like, it's like, you don't know how they're going to react to your explanation. So I said, well, round it off again and say like, no, they're not sick right now. We don't want them to get sick. You know, we don't want them to get that bad germ. So that's why we have to do this, you know?
And it's such a comfort to see people on Zoom, by the way.
Yeah,
it's such a comfort to adults. It's a comfort to kids too. I know that we're always concerned about screen time for young children. Mm-hmm. I was on a Zoom call yesterday with teachers, and we were doing some learning together. And one of the clinicians that works with this school system pointed out that she's been doing research about this screen time. And what she learned was if children are interactive, it doesn't count as the sort of screen time we try not to do.
Yeah, they're not like just blindly in front of the TV. I also have like this thing, like this had something, it was about something totally different, but I started kind of doing it for everything. Somebody said like, don't worry about your diet right now. You're in a crisis kind of thing. So like eat your cookie, like don't worry about gaining weight. So part of me is like,
however,
we're worried about
coming out of this crisis
like this big, yeah. But at the same time, I kind of got that. Like, don't stress about that kind of stuff. And it's the same thing. Like I started thinking about that with screen time. I'm like, you know what? At this particular time, I almost feel like it's important for those kids to be on the screen and see their friends. You know, I mean, as much as we would say normally, like, oh, I don't want them on the screen all the time. At this time, which is like a totally different time than any other time in your whole life, it's a crisis. They need that screen time, and don't sit them in front of like YouTube all day, but like, get on there.
No, they need
like
to see each other.
They need to see each other.
Like you're saying, they need to understand that the people they're seeing that they might be able to see on technology, whatever you're using, look, the people are out there and are not sick. Like they could think everybody has this. They could think a whole lot of things. If we don't open up the door to communicate with them, I think we're making a huge mistake.
I think so too.
They need to know they can say what's on their mind. And when they see adults going through things, and folks, I don't care how much you try to hide it, they know that you're stressed. The children know it. So if they see adults being stressed and no one's talking to them about it, it just makes it scarier in their heads.
Snowballs in their head.
What you imagine is always way worse than the reality, even as an adult. When you try to imagine situations and then you get in them, always way worse in your imagination, especially true for young children who don't know how to separate fantasy and reality. My uncle, I'm going to shout out my uncle. My uncle often tells the story, and I may have told it already on a prior episode of the podcast, that when he was young, kids weren't allowed to go to funerals, and there was a death in the family, and they wouldn't let him go to the funeral. And he said what he imagined was probably far worse than what actually happened at that funeral. And because he wasn't allowed to go, and it seemed so scary to him as a kid, ever since then, going to funerals for him is like a thing, because when he was young, he was never taught about it. So I think, we have to recognize that if it's not the same crisis, even crises happen, and children need to know that in a crisis, we reach out to each other. We don't withdraw and go inside. We reach out and we can talk to each other and we support our loved ones. We are supporting our children if we are brave and open up the conversation.
I emailed my parents and I said, right now, no matter what, your child needs to know that you are there for them, no matter what they are feeling or what they are going through, that you are there for them and that you support them no matter what. And I told them that is the best lesson that's going to come out of this whole thing, is if you provide that support, then for the rest of their lives, they will know that they can rely on you no matter what they have to tell you. So that's an awesome lesson that could come out of this for these kids that are young and like, oh, well, I told my mommy how I was feeling and she was there for me. Great. Now they understand they could always rely on you no matter what is going on in the outside world. What a great lesson for them.
Yeah. You're their person, be their person.
Yeah.
And if you think your children don't notice that there's change in their life, come on, how much has our lives changed?
Our lives have changed.
This is like what? This is the beginning of week 3?
3. Yeah.
Okay. So for some of us, this is the beginning of week 3.
It seems like it's been forever.
Oh my God, I can't.
Like March has been 3 years long. Like already I'm like, oh, it's April, right? No, it's not. It's the beginning of week 3. So it's not even been that long.
But long enough for children to know their lives have been altered, for sure.
Right.
And they may be enjoying being with you. I would imagine if my kids were little, they would think it's kind of cool not to have to get up in the morning, get dressed, go to school. I think that we might have a lot of fun together. I think that might be nice, but that doesn't mean they don't know you're stressed, and that doesn't mean that they don't know that something's wrong. They do.
They do. They know that this is different than just say winter break, which is 2 weeks long, and like they know this is different. They've never had to go online with their classmates before. They've never had to stay in this long before, because usually if it's a spring break, winter break or something, they can go do stuff. They can go on vacations. Like they can do stuff. They can't do anything anymore. And that's very, very different. And if you think that they don't notice that, then I don't know, you're mistaken. I think everybody notices it, how could you not?
They notice it and they feel it. Even more than that, they feel it. Just like humans feel each other's tension. I don't, if you hadn't heard us say it before, pay attention to when your children are playing and drawing and writing, because that's when they're going to mostly express how they're feeling. You'll see them pretend certain things. You'll see them draw certain things having to do with this situation. Pay close attention. And when they're doing that, talk to them about it. Ask them what they're doing or drawing. Talk to them about what they're thinking. those of you who have the really young children, the infants and mobile infants who can't yet verbalize or express themselves in that way, you know, babies are very instinctual.
Yeah.
And they know when patterns are off. I think the best thing you can do if you're listening to us and you're thinking, but I have an infant, spend lots of time making eye contact with your infant and paying lots and lots of attention. If you thought before my infant requires so much attention, you hadn't seen anything yet.
Yeah.
They're going to require even more attention and soothing and being held and all that stuff. Now is a time, I think, to suspend normal actions and just know these children, if I'm tense, the children can, even when you hold them, they can feel it.
They know.
They know.
And
so,
I mean, even in the lives of these infants, like I have a niece who's a year old, a little older than a year. Her routine's different now too. Her parents are home. You know, I mean, they're home. She's not going to childcare. She's not going to grandma's house twice a week. And they see it, they sense it.
But that's why it's important to set up a new routine.
Yeah.
You have to have a routine at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have a routine at home. You know, Allison, that could be a good topic for another one of our shelter-in-place episodes.
Right.
Look, she's going to write now. This is what, those of you who haven't been able to see us, those of you who haven't been able to see us before we took to YouTube, so you know, this is what I would say, something like, oh, Allison, we should do this in the future. This is exactly, she would write.
I would write it down, but now I feel like I have to verbalize that so they know that why is she not looking at the screen?
Yeah, no, she's writing
before
down.
I would just do it. Yeah. All right. So
Allison is like the best record keeper. I'm like technology person, and Allison is the record keeper.
This is why that if you've ever, I don't know, written us, okay, Cindy's always the first person to write back, and it's not because I'm, you know, not paying attention. It's because,
mostly.
Not you.
Sometimes you get it first.
I did really good the other day. I wrote somebody first. I was so proud of myself. Okay, but usually Cindy will get it first because she knows how to use the technology, and then she just copies me on it, and I just hit reply because I know how to do that. I do not know really how to post anything on the Facebook page that we have, even though I know how to use Facebook. I don't know how to post on that. So I always I'll send things to Cindy and be like, here you go. And then she posts it. Okay.
It's all good. It's all good. Listen, I feel like if we can keep this podcast operating and relevant during this time, then, you know, high five to us. If only we could really, look, we're gonna like high five. We're never high fiving again in person, but high five, technology, no hand to hand contact at all. All right, folks. So we are going to sign off. Perhaps record another episode. I don't know. We have to talk once we sign off. Thank you for continuing to be our preschool peeps. I've been looking at the analytics of the podcast because I'm so curious if people are still listening, if they're not driving so much. And you know what? They are. They are. So thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who has found us on YouTube. Please share this podcast, subscribe to it, give us a high rating and good comments because that makes us smile. And who doesn't need to smile these days? So, and preschool peeps, we know a lot of you are still working because you are watching essential workers' children, whether you're a home child care provider or a child care center that's been permitted to, in our area, they have to request to stay open to solely serve essential workers, families. We see you out there. We know you're still working. The whole world sees you, and you're in that list of heroes if you're required to stay open for those essential workers' children. So, okay, Allison, you want to sign us off?
Bye, everybody. Stay safe. Thank you.
See you next time.